catch the show every weekday, Mondays to Fridays at exactly 10:30 a.m. And we bring you latest information on the stock market, the debt market, different ETFs, and anything concerning financial markets is found here at the show. And this is Smart24 TV, the #1 business channel, of course, in East Africa, bringing you the latest on business and what you need to know in order to be able to get to the next level in terms of getting yourself an income from your business. Now, regarding Altex, don't forget to invest with Altex East Africa. This is the #1 private stock exchange, and they have established a name for themselves as, of course, traders of different, debt stock, definitely on the East African market, and they have favorable interest rates that they offer different treasury bonds across East Africa, in Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. And now with their partnership with MTN, you can now invest across East Africa just at the tip of your finger. You can now dial *292# and follow the prompts and be able to buy or even sell different bonds across East Africa. Altex East Africa market opens at exactly 8:15 and closes at a 3:15 p.m. Altex East Africa doing something new. Now you can hit us up on our Twitter, where we are, of course, having a conversation today on what you think about the treasury bonds market, and that is, of course, versus the stock market. What do you think should be done in order to make our markets more aggressive and get to also improve our investment portfolios so we can diversify and get to different products and have corporate bonds and more of the same. What do you think about that? You can hit us up on Twitter at Smart24 TV and get us a reply there. Now, in aggregate, last Friday, we had 6 companies participate in the trades there on the Uganda Stock Exchange. And we had 5 gainers on the market and 6 bottom losers. The gainers, as I mentioned, were led by Jubilee Holdings, who came in the first position after having gained about 3.53% on the price of their stock there at the Uganda Stock Exchange. And then we also had Centum, who gained about 0.65%, and Wumeme gaining about 0.45%, and East African Breweries at 0.33% price appreciation. Now, National Insurance Corporation came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of close to 12.07% decline, closing the day with a 5.1 shillings closing price from 5.8 Ugandan shillings. Stanbic Bank also lost 1.96 on their stock price, as well as Equity Bank, who lost 0.71%, and MTN at 0.57% on their loss there. However, the top movers, Bank of Baroda came out as a top mover after having traded close to 1 million shares that were traded on the company on Friday, as well as National Insurance Corporation, who had about 192,964 shares that were traded on the stock market on Friday. Stanbic Bank had, the third biggest volume at 180,000 shares that were transacted, and Cipla followed suit in the 4th position with 47,200 shares there. However, also MTN had 9,558 shares traded on the stock market, and also came out as a top mover there on the Uganda stock market. Regarding the performance of the index, the all-share index shed off, of course, 3.95 points, and this was a 0.33% drop in a day on Friday, and they had about closing points of about 1,207.70 points, representing a 1-week loss of 1.1% and a 4-week loss of 5.38%. and an overall year-to-date loss still of 14.99% rather on the stock market. The local company index also decreased at a 0.62% decrease to 268.49 points, making it a one-week loss of 1.67% and a four-week loss of 2.89% and a year-to-date loss of 17.3%. Well, data not so good there for our stock exchange, but still not losing hope. We are still on the fact that the stock market always provides opportunity when it's going down. It's hard to believe, but it's the truth. You must buy when it's going down. You must be able to have the courage to buy when it's still in the reds, and that way you will be able to avert the risk that of course could come later on. But still, of course, investing very wisely and being very calculative, not just investing anyhow, is another strategy you have to think about. Think about the sectors that are going to make money, at least within the next few days, in next few weeks and months. Think about sectors that are not going to lose money no matter what happens to the market. The utilities that are also listed, people will still communicate regardless of whether there is a bad economy or not. People will still have to move. So you're looking at which sector is stable, which sector is going to be performing better in the near future. Of course, you have to peep into the future before investing, though it's pretty hard to predict what could happen. Let's look at Wumeme stock here. Wumeme was a top, one of the top movers, but also was able to gain some value on its stock the stock price. Wumeme is a private company, limited, of course, by share capital, and it's a public company that was, listed in 2012 on the 30th of November. The company currently has a market capitalization of 326 billion Ugandan shillings, representing 1.57% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. They currently are the 10th most valuable with this current market capitalization. And on Friday, they had an appreciation of 0.91 shillings, and this was from 200.00 shillings to 200.91 shillings. Almost a shilling was added to the stock price of Wumeme there. However, they traded about 8,000 shares in terms of volume that was traded, and these 8,000 shares were valued at 1.61 million Ugandan shillings at the moment of trading. Now, the shares outstanding currently are 1.62 billion shares on the stock market that are floated, and we have the capitalization, of course, drawn to 326 billion from the 200.91 Ugandan shillings share per Ugandan shillings cost per share. The company's stock has been quite stable at 200 shillings for a while, being very specific. Since the month of September, they have traded at 200 shillings without any slight change at all in their stock. However, yesterday, rather the last day of trading, that is Friday, they had an appreciation of 0.91 shillings on their stock price and closed the day with 200.91 Ugandan shillings per stock, per share there on their stock price. And Wumeme, however, it began the year with 189.0 Ugandan shillings and has since then gained about 6.3% on its stock price and is ranked the second in terms of year-to-date performance, which is quite amazing. The company has gained, at least in terms of year-to-date performance at the moment. But in terms of 1 week, they have also still gained about 0.45%. And in the last 4 weeks, of course, 0.45% as well, because of what I said, of course, in the last month of September, the stock was quite stable around 200 shillings, and you can see a flat line on their graph there for their price, and that indicates a stable price that has been traded on in the last month of September. Now, in 3 months, they have lost 7.02%, and in this last 6 months, they lost about 6.55%, and 1 year performance indicates a 4.33% loss, but on the year to date, they're still in the green figures there at a 6.3% price appreciation. Now, WUMEME, in terms of trading, has maintained the second most traded stock, being, of course, led by now Stanbic Bank Uganda. I don't know if it's still the same. We shall analyze later when we look at Bank of Baroda. But currently, MTN Uganda is, WUMEME Uganda Limited is still the second most traded on stock on the Uganda Stock Exchange within the past 3 months, from the 5th of July to the 14th of October. WUMEME has traded within this period close to 14.1 million shares that are valued at 2.8 billion Ugandan shillings, and they have a volume average of 223,485 shares per trading session within this period, and a volume high of 8.13 million shares, which was achieved on the 23rd of August 2022. Now, when you look at their intensity, or rather frequency of trading within the last week, on 14th they had trading which was about 8,000 shares. On the 13th they had about 12,100 shares. On the 12th they had 93 shares, 2,400 on the 10th. A little bit of, they had a break on 11th, but at least they have a pretty fair frequency of appearance on the traded volumes there on the Uganda Stock Exchange, and still one of the biggest companies with the biggest turnover, at least within the last 2 quarters that we have already broken down here on the show. The company has been able to put up a very nice fight on the stock markets, regardless of the poor performances from majorly different stock markets around East Africa. That is WUMEME Limited for you, and currently, like I said, the stock price of WUMEME is 200.91 shillings at the moment. That's the price at which you can start your bargain at for the stock there at WUMEME Limited. Moving across to National Insurance Corporation, who was the bottom loser on the stock market there. National Insurance Corporation lost close to about 12.07% on the stock price, closing the day with about 5.1 shillings after having lost 0.7 shillings of their stock price on the stock market there in the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, National Insurance Corporation had a volume of just 192,964 shares that were traded, and a gross turnover of just about 984,174 Ugandan shillings worth of shares that were transacted on the stock market. The shares outstanding currently are 1.242 billion shares, valued at 7.22 billion, and currently this company is holding about 0.035% of the Uganda Stock Exchange equity market, and they are the 17th most valuable on the stock market here in Uganda. The company is still not pretty much still performing under the average standards. Looking at the National Insurance Corporation stock at 5.10 Ugandan shillings per share, it recorded a 12.1% drop from the previous price that was 5.8 shillings. However, currently it is the 6th most traded on the Uganda Stock Exchange within the last 3 months, from the 15th of July to the 14th of October 2022. National Insurance Corporation has traded about 1.61 million shares within this period on the stock market. And looking at also their averages, they have close to an average of 25,596 traded shares per session, and a volume high of 792,918 shares that were traded on the 15th of July 2022 as well. That is NIC, or National Insurance Corporation, there for you. In summary, the trading ended with close to 1,437,722 shares that were traded, with Bank of Baroda taking the lion's share of over 1 million. And compared with the previous day of USE trading, we had about 240% improvement in the volume and a 410% improvement in the turnover as well. The current market capitalization of the Uganda Securities Exchange is standing at 20.8 trillion Ugandan shillings on the stock market there. And that's it for the last day of trading there on the Uganda Stock Exchange, which was Friday for you. Moving along very fast to Nairobi. Nairobi Stock Exchange on Friday appreciated, on the other hand, at about 1.11 increase in the points, and this was a 0.86% appreciation on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. The company had a close to about, we had about 46 participants in the Nairobi Stock Exchange market, and it ended with 25 gainers. Unfortunately, just about 16 losers on the stock market there. East African Breweries Limited led the gainers with a total of 23.19% that was appreciated on the stock price, therefore. East African Breweries Limited, and about 170.0 Kenyan shillings closing price. It was followed by Sanlam. Sanlam had about 8.57% appreciation, and we had also Crown Paints coming there at a top gainer, and as well as Standard Group at a 4.8% price appreciation. On the losing side, eGuards came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of close to 9.23% at 11.8 Kenyan shillings per share. And it was followed by Wumeme. Unfortunately, Wumeme declined by close to 4.34% of their stock price on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Sasini Tea and Coffee also declined about 2.55%, and Kabaseed Investments also declined by 2.08% of their price on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, regarding the volumes that were recorded, yes, well, Equity Group Holdings beat Safaricom this time round after having traded a big volume of about 1.27 million shares that were recorded, and followed by Safaricom, who had about 555,000 shares that were recorded. CIC Insurance also had a big volume of about 506,500 shares that were recorded on the stock market in Kenya. Regarding the performance of the NSE market indices, the NSE All Share Index went up by 1.11 points, closing the day with 129.9 points, representing a one-week gain of about 5.07% and a four-week loss of 3.19%, and an overall year-to-date loss of 21.96%. Other remarkable indices that performed were the NSE 20 share index at a 1.51% price appreciation, and the NSE 25 at a 2.28% appreciation there on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Regarding the total number of deals here, we had about 1,000 deals on the Nairobi market and about 4.2 million shares that were transacted. And these, of course, followed about 156 million Kenyan shillings turnover that ended the day on Friday. The Nairobi market still looked pretty good, and yes, fair enough, at least for the market that has come out of an election, uncertainty, as well as inflation and the weakening Kenyan shilling. It's a quite promising market, and I would highly recommend you diversify your portfolio with some stock from Nairobi, Kenya. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, from us here at Smart24 TV. You can find more on this data at Smart24 TV on our website, as well as on our Twitter handle, or you can follow me on social media at Anthony Sebale for more information regarding this particular performance. We'll catch you next week, not actually tomorrow, same time, same place, and see you then. Bye for now.